Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin. Hugh McDonald and Tam McManus are here with me. Sorry for the delay and is getting on live. Few glitches here and there. In fact, we might have some technical problems all the way through the programme, but we're going to try and persevere for as long as possible. You can give us your messages as well, your thoughts on the football. Lots of points to talk about. Is it time for Giovanni van Bronckhorst to go at Ibrox? Is the title race over? Can you see Celtic losing 3 games? Do we need better referees to operate VAR? You can give us your thoughts on that. The UEFA Champions League draw. Can Arsenal scupper Man City's title bid? And which country boasted 12, in fact 10 red cards in one game over the weekend? That was a howitzer. Can you imagine that happening here? Lots to talk about. Of course, the main crux of the talk today is Hugh McDonald. Rangers losing to St Johnstone, 7 points behind in the title race, and some Rangers fans thinking enough is enough.
Yeah, and I can see the point completely. I think the 7 points is, people are casting back. This time last year, Celtic were 7 points behind, but that's true. But Celtic were invested in a squad. Celtic had a manager, and there were signs of hope even for Celtic fans last year. Celtic fans were in a place last year, maybe not of expectation, but hope. They hoped they could turn out, and they thought that even if this year it doesn't come in the league, maybe it'll go forward. That's not the case with Rangers. You've got a different atmosphere going on at Rangers at the moment. It looks very much as if Van Bronckhorst has lost most of the fans, I would say. But more worryingly, it looks as if there's, you hesitate to say things like losing the team, but there doesn't seem to be. There's no urgency on the park. It's the players are making basic errors, and more worryingly, not making basic runs, Peter. No tracking, letting people go. I think it's a real malaise at the moment, and I think in normal times, that would be him gone. Yeah,
well, the AGM is on the 6th of December, which leads me to believe that if he isn't gone now, then clearly a lot of people are looking and saying it's not financially viable to get rid of him, clear him out, all his team, and get somebody new in.
Yeah, well, I think he would have come in a big contract. He came in with a big pedigree, obviously done very well at Feyenoord, and brought, I think, 3 or 4 of his own staff in. So that was a big outlay for Rangers to pay them all off and then get a new management team in. So I think they might limp on until the World Cup break and then try and maybe strengthen during that window. But I totally agree with you. I've seen a real lack of desire, a real lack of, try to get back into the game for Rangers. And when St Johnstone get that second goal, usually you would expect a quick response from the whole firm teams, but didn't really get that. And Rangers never really looked to get back on level terms. And there was a clip, I think, with Lundstrom, where he took a bad touch and kind of pulled out the tackle. John Lundstrom, when he first came into the club, was a real snarling, presence in that midfield, getting in, biting into tackles. Don't see that at all from him over the last month or two, and I think that's not just digging him out. I think that's endemic through the whole team now at Rangers, and that must be worrying for the manager.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, this is what Giovanni van Bronckhorst had to say at the end of the game. We started on the front foot, created so many chances in the first 30 minutes, but weren't clinical enough to score the first goal. Instead, we conceded, and that made it harder. Losing 3 points is always damaging, no matter which stage of the season it is. In our last 3 games, we've dropped 5 points, and that's not acceptable. I'm confident I will keep on working. It's all we can do at the moment. We will stay together and focus on the next game. That's all I can do. A manager can say that. The fans, though, think completely differently on this. When you've got, James Tavernier out there trying to chat to the fans are voicing their displeasure. There was, I got a real sense of apathy towards the end of the game. Not anger, apathy.
Well, that's what the point I was making. Like, see, the Livingston game. I watched that time in a stream. I was up at the Excelsior Stadium. I was watching this. I'm watching the Rangers game, and I thought it must have been about 400 Rangers. I said, "What's the score?" It says 100 Livingston. I says 10 minutes because the stands were empty. Normally, you would expect if Rangers were down, 1-0 at home at Livingston with 12 minutes to go, the place would have been mobbed. People were leaving, and I thought, that's a sign. If people are saying, do you know what?
They're fed up, man.
I don't think you can come back from that. That's a sign. And the results and the performances of late, I forgive them much in the Champions League, because the Champions League was a tough group, a real top sides, and I can forgive much of that. Some I can, but forgive much. But Dundee at home was a dreadful performance. Dreadful performance. Livingston's a poor performance. Yesterday, you can say all you like, and dress it up all you like with corners and possession and all that. The goalkeeper for St Johnstone didn't have a worldie yesterday. Did not have a worldie.
No, absolutely.
You're saying to yourself, well, that's pure stuff.
And as ever, whenever Rangers or Celtic lose a game, sometimes you forget about the team that actually inflicted the defeat in the first place. So full marks to St Johnstone for going about their business. I had them down to get relegated, Tam. So he's brought in some experience. Yeah, he's brought in some experienced players, and suddenly, they've managed to not only get the goals but keep things the way they were 2 years prior. A really tight organisation at the back. He's managed to get his defence back to the way he wants it.
Yeah, and I think they've got something in them. A real grit and determination to stay in a game.
Uh-huh.
It was the same at Easter Road last week. 1-0 down. Hibs were dominant. They stayed in the game. They waited and they took their opportunities. Yesterday, first half, let's be honest, Rangers absolutely battered them. It was one-way traffic. I think Rangers had 12 or 13 corners in the first half. 10 efforts at goal. But St Johnstone they've just got that in them. Just dig in, see this bit of pressure out, and wait for opportunities, and they took it. With James Brown, and it was a fantastic finish from him. But I think when you look at the overall picture, St Johnstone are in a really healthy position.
Yeah, well, I have to say it's my firm belief, Hugh, that I'm looking at the Rangers situation. If you were to lose maybe another game or drop points, then I think maybe the Rangers board, their hand would be forced, and they'd have to really seriously look at who they were going to approach to try and halt the slide. But I think that, as Tam and yourself have mentioned, I think the financial situation, which will become also apparent on the 6th of December, will reveal all to the Rangers fans. And I don't think it's anything that's critical as far as what had happened in 2012, but I do think it's a situation where they've had to balance the books and keep everybody who's invested in them happy, clearing off a few things that they owe people, and that has got to a situation where quite simply they've got a squad, they've got things that they've got to do to keep the stadium going, they've got things that they've got to do to keep all the staff going, and all those costs, even with all the rewards that they've had, it's all on a very, very tight balance sheet.
It must be. That's why everybody's waiting for that meeting, because then it'll be out in the open, because all we've been dealing with is in rumours and suppositions. We go around Scottish football a lot, around the grounds, we've got our contracts, and there's always the whispers, what about this? The stuff coming up, do the Parks want out? Do they want to sell? What's going on in the background? How much was the payment to Mike Ashley? How much were other soft loans? Have other soft loans been paid off as well? We know other people put in money. Have their soft loans been paid off rather than transferred into shareholdings? We don't know. But what we do know is that Rangers had a very tight transfer window. They didn't go in again after qualifying for the Champions League, which suggests to me that there was real thoughts and concerns about what they could afford. And now you've got the mouth music coming out all the time from them. The general line that's coming out of Ibrox and Ibrox sources is, we didn't make as much, as we don't have as much as everybody thinks. So, but the day of reckoning is December the 6th. Remember, since 2012 to now, 10 years, losses all the time. This is a club that does not make money. Well, that's a fact.
This could be the 10th consecutive year.
And now you're talking about over 100 million down the line in 10 years. So if you're saying to yourself, at one point in life, somebody's got to say, what are we doing here? What is our plan? What is our strategy for A, getting our money back, and B, getting on a level pegging? And then you throw in the football into that. It's turbulent times, Peter. And the third thing, I will just finish it. Normally in that situation, you would just say, well, if you're Celtic, you would just say, we'll have to get Juranovic, O'Reilly, Jota, Carter Vickers. Just get them off the books. Get them away for, pretty cut price. We'll take X for Jota when we could get X plus 2, but get them off the books. Who in the Rangers team at the moment would sell for money? Maybe the viewers can tell me that. Who would you get money for?
Well,
proper money.
Yeah, the big problem. The answer to that is not many, if at all. The two that were being talked about with proper money and double figures were, of course, Kent and Morelos. But I would look and say, will they go and take the flack off everybody by selling them in the January transfer window to get some money?
I don't think they would get any flack for that,
No.
Peter, for the Rangers supporters. I
No.
think that the Rangers supporters would be quite happy to see the back of both of them.
Yeah, they drive them.
And you know, I was speaking to a few people, Rangers supporters yesterday actually, and they'd be quite happy. They actually don't want Rangers to offer them a new deal. They would rather cut their losses and get some money for them in this January window, because neither of them have been good enough this season. You know, I think Ryan Kent scored 1 goal in the calendar year for Rangers in an attacking sense. It's really poor. Morelos looks completely out of shape.
Yeah, Cholak's the best player they've got there.
Cholak is the one that's kind of carried the flag and really and scored goals, but the rest of them, they're heavily reliant on him. You've seen that yesterday as well. So I don't think that Rangers have got many players in there that they could sell for proper money. You know, even Kamara was one. $8 to £10 million at Nice or somebody like that.
Yeah.
You know, they're talking about.
He was awful yesterday when he came on as well.
He looks as if he's down tools. He wants to leave as well.
Yeah.
So there's a real problem at Ibrox.
You look at it yesterday, Peter, when all situations, and people forget because of the story yesterday was obviously Rangers, but 12, 18 hours before that, Celtic were in trouble. You know, toiling against a Dundee United team that equalised. The cavalry had come off the bench. You look at the cavalry that comes off the bench for Celtic to get them over the line. Look, the cavalry that came off the bench at one time for, you can imagine Rangers at one time. Oh, Morelos is coming on for the last half hour. Morelos came on for the last half hour, and there's not a word for it. It was embarrassing.
Yeah, it's difficult times, although let's not take anything away from Callum Davison and St Johnstone, the Saints manager, glowing in his praise of Nicky Clark for that winning goal.
I think you see that. I think when he's played, you can see that we've got that with a little bit of quality, a little bit of composure. He's a very clever player. He links with his other striker, which has been Stevie most of the time, and it's fantastic to see him get the goal, because I thought he put a tremendous shift in, having to work back quite a lot, the two strikers. We knew that was going to happen, but I thought the two of them did it without complaint and got on with the business.
Yeah, full marks to St Johnstone. They are looking up in the table because Callum Davison has been given the time by the board to turn it around.
Yeah, I never thought that was a question. People were saying, he's getting. I mean, he just won 2 cups for them. I mean, it's probably the most, in fact, not probably, the most historic season in the history of the club.
But in all your experience though, Hugh, it's all right saying that and why people were even considering it, but the nature of the way football is going now, managers are getting bumped right, left and centre.
There would have been St Johnstone fans calling for his head at one point, I think.
Yeah, but I think St Johnstone's a pretty steady club.
Yes.
And I think if any club, I never had any personal feeling that I thought he might walk rather than go. He might just be bound down to it. But all you hear about Callum Davidson, I don't know the man, but all you hear about him is how good a coach he is. Good coaches talk about him being a good coach. What I think was really interesting with this turnaround, that's him got for the first time 3 Premiership wins on the bounce. He's playing against Rangers and he played 2 up front. Now I know the 2 up front tracked back. I know at times May was in behind. But he played a system that gave them the best chance. He obviously looked at Rangers and said, see their centre backs, we've got to try and get to them in some way. We've obviously got to track back and be firm and tight. And I thought his game plan, very much like Robinson's game plan for St Mirren when they beat Celtic, he gave his team the best chance of a good result.
Okay, they stuck by him. It's the $64,000 question. Do Rangers stick by Giovanni van Bronckhorst, and if so, do they limp into the break and hope they can sort all the problems out? I personally think they will limp to the break, head to the AGM, take the flack that's coming, and then hope that Giovanni van Bronckhorst can somehow, with people coming back, he can put together some sort of side that can try and battle it out in the Scottish Premiership. The only thing that I think is going against him, Hugh, is Celtic. I can't see losing 3 games.
I agree with you totally. I think that there's 2 sides to that question. If you ask me, should they do it and all that, I say no, just take the pain now and try, even if it's putting in an interim person, because what you've got to do is you've really got to get the fans back on side. You've got to get some feeling of momentum back in the team. But I agree with you, I think it's more likely that they just they bite it and just say, right, this is not the time to make decisions. And remember, Ross Wilson, who will be very much involved in the process, and others, you've got to think, what are the alternatives? You know, who are going to get in here? Who's going to come in here and turn this round when on the back of what everybody knows that this is not a club that's going to be giving you a huge budget when you come in. So yeah, but if it was me, answer A was me, I would cut losses now. But I agree with you, Peter. That might be the more likely scenario.
Tam?
Totally agree with you. I think that I think they should get rid of him now. But I don't think they will. I don't think they can afford to get rid of him and his staff. And I think they'll limp it. They'll see it out to the break, and they'll try and strengthen again in January and have a run to the end of the season, because there's no really any real alternatives out there. I've seen Sean Dyche get mentioned, and even Hasenhüttl. These guys are not going to get near Rangers. They're going to get another job in England, the Premier League, at the top end of the Championship. So
what about Beale?
I don't think Beale. I think maybe get Beale at the end of the season. I think he would stay at QPR, maybe see if he can get them up or playoffs. I think maybe end of the season. I don't see Beale coming now. You've got to pay compensation for him and get him in, and you've sacked. I don't think Rangers have got the money to do it.
And Beale's turned down Wolves.
Yeah. No, I'm playing devil's advocate here, because I think Giovanni van Bronckhorst will stay, and I think the flack will increase if they don't get anything against Hearts. You're suddenly looking, you're saying to yourself, that's 50,000 people in the stadium, and that becomes real pressure, because the one thing that you look at is directors, once they feel the heat from the fans at home, that's when they start to say to themselves, I'm not taking any more of this. And the other aspect of it, I firmly believe that Douglas Park, if he could get an offer from someone, would go, because his business is one element that takes a lot of his energy, but Rangers is all consuming. I think he would walk out if he could get someone who would come in and say, right, we're going to take it over and offer a stable way for Rangers to move forward. But right now I'm saying to myself, Celtic are not going to drop three games and then Rangers are going to win all the way. I can't see that happening.
The goal difference as well, was it 15 goals, 16 goals?
Yeah,
that's another point.
Another thing is, in transfer to last year, when Celtic were the 7 points behind and did reverse it, and teams have reversed it over the years, is that you've got to look at it in context. 7 points is not irreversible, Peter.
No.
Not with three, Glasgow derbies to come. It's not irreversible, don't get me wrong. But you've got to look at it in context. What are Celtic like at the moment, and what are Rangers like at the moment? And it's highly unlikely that it's going to tip the other way.
Yeah, absolutely. Must apologise to some of you who may well be just realising we've got a few technical glitches today, so sometimes, there'll be a glitch on the screen. We're trying to fix that as soon as we can. It just means sometimes maybe Tam, his voice sounds like mine, but that means he's going to be one of the most intelligent pundits of all time. Anyway, thanks to so many of you. Hit the subscribe button and join the football family. It's uncensored football news and banter, and it's absolutely free on the channel. So we apologise for those little technical hitches. Hugh has alluded to the fact that Celtic, although they left it late, managed to get the win over Dundee United, and that's the strange thing about it. It looked as if they were coasting, and then suddenly, was it a penalty?
I'm going to say it was a penalty, simply because I think it's harsh, but in the rules of the game, it's an unnatural position and it's a header that's going towards goal. So I think he's very unlucky. He's facing away, it comes off his hand, but it's harsh. But I think it is a penalty. I think they got it right. And Celtic, there's so many opportunities to put the game to bed. When it goes to 2 each, I just felt something inside me that Celtic would still win, and I think a lot of Celtic supporters would have thought that as well. We never stop. I think that obviously that motto comes from Ange Postecoglou, the manager, and as soon as Celtic go 2 each, they score right away, and that is a sign of not only a champions but a team that goes right to the death. And I think that would have sickened Rangers as well. Rangers supporters thinking, we're back in it here, at 2 each. Celtic get the goal, then get the fourth goal, great finish from Abada. So no, I think that the performance obviously could have been better. They were disappointed they lost 2 goals, but 3 points is everything, and they move on. Yeah,
I look at the VAR across all of the games, and we'll talk about other matches as well. No surprise, Ange Postecoglou is not happy, especially with the time it's taking.
I'll cop teething problems, but we've got to be learning along the way. So why are we sitting around for 2 minutes? We had 5 minutes of extra time in the first half of a game of football. It's crazy. For what? I think, if they think that's handball, and it seems that any time the ball touches your, your hand in the box, apart from if you're playing hearts away, it's a penalty, right? So if that's the case, they could have seen that in the first screen that it's hit Bernard's arm.
It's good that managers have got long memories, isn't it? He's right. He's just pointing that out in case we all forgot about it.
He's right though. Yeah. I mean, I think the most important point he's right about is I've said this all the time. It's terrible. I know journalists like it, and journalists say that that's okay if you're a journalist at a game. See if you're a punter at the game, and I've been a punter at games, in Germany when this came in. It's awful. It's awful.
You don't know what's happening.
You don't know. We were at a situation once where Dortmund had to win a game to get into the Champions League, and it was in Cologne. Dortmund were 1-0 up. Dortmund went 2-0 up, and the place erupted. I was in the Dortmund end, and everybody died. That way, deer flying up in the air. And of course, the old doddery shug is just holding onto his chair so he doesn't get swept down the path. And I noticed, I said to myself, I'm just looks as if they've taken a by kick or something. So I'm turning round to this end and saying, it's still 1-0. That was near a goal. Of course, I get slaughtered because it still had 2-0 up on the board. Well, of course, it was taken off. It was offside. Now, what you're doing, that's happening all throughout Scotland now and Europe. Fans are sitting in the game. They don't know whether they celebrate or no celebrate. They don't know what's going on. But if you're sitting in the telly in the house, you've got a better view.
You know what's going on.
That's not the way.
You know what they're looking at.
That's not the way to get the paying punter. And the second point about it, of course, is everybody used to say, well, at least we'll get the right decisions, and we're not. And I'm taking out the handballs out of that. I'm not even going into the handballs debate. But with the decisions that have just been wrong.
Yeah, listen.
We're going to that one.
We're coming to that one. It's coming. Up at Pittodrie, but Liam Fox certainly not happy with VAR either, and the time it takes.
I think I spoke during the week about the time it's taken, and from my point of view, I'd prefer that it took a wee bit longer to get the right decision. Does disrupt the flow of the game. It's almost a wee bit of. It's almost like you can't really enjoy a goal because you're kind of waiting to find out if there's going to be chopped on or chopped off. So that's it. The process has to get quicker and better and slicker, and I stand by what I said midweek on that.
Okay, it has to get quicker, that's for sure. We have to get it correct, have to try and limit the number of mistakes that are coming from VAR as well. We're going to talk about the officials in that as well. But just briefly, guys, Tam, Dundee United are bottom of the table.
I think they're relegation favourites now. I really do. I think that, a plucky display at the weekend. You're 4 or 5 minutes away from getting a draw at Parkhead. But I don't know. I just got a bad feeling about Dundee United. I think that they've got to back that guy there, Liam Fox, in January. They've got to back him. He's got to have complete autonomy to get the players he wants out. There will be players there who he wants out the building, and he needs to get players in. He needs to get legs into the team. And I think they're in real trouble. Ross County obviously won, Kilmarnock. I think Dundee United are favourites for me to get relegated at the minute.
Yeah, up at Pittodrie, it was a big win for Aberdeen against Hibs. But I have to say, Hugh, if VAR is supposed to get the percentage of decisions right, then whoever is officiating at the studios where all the VAR equipment is, they need to have a long, hard look at themselves. That Duke dive for a penalty, it was absolutely atrocious. See, the Duke's a situation. Referees always go away for a year, and they draw up clips of what this is and what that is, and they show it to managers. This is a dive. This is not a dive. See, if you're sitting in the referee department, you say, "Well, I've got to make a wee video of what's a dive and what's not." Duke was bid number one. And the thing about Duke, anybody who watches football, the first time you look at that as a punter, I'm not talking about somebody like Tam that's played football and in that position and knows much more about what you can get away with, what you do there. But as a punter, you look at that and go, that's a dive. Now, in a replay, it might be proved completely wrong, but you're saying to yourself, that's stonewall dive. Yeah. Just the way he's gone, it's just the way, everything about it. To have a referee department look at that and pass it, it's deeply concerning, Peter. Yeah, I think it is. And also, I think you've got a number of players coming out and saying, this is the ultimate. I mean, I remember the last couple of weeks when I was saying referees look at pundits and other people and go, well, you just don't understand the laws of the game and the rules. That's fine, you know. There are some aspects of it where I think punters, journalists, pundits, you name it. Well, I mean, players don't know the laws of the game. That's an absolute stonewall certainty. But the point here is, Tam, when you get to a situation where you've got a blatant dive and people are looking at it and seeing it from angles, how they can call it. Their players are now saying, referees, they don't understand the game, never played it, don't understand it. That line came out this weekend, and I thought, now they're rallying back at them.
Now they're saying they should get ex-pros in the VAR, you know, ex-players, you know, in there that understand the game. And, you know, I couldn't argue against that at the minute, because that decision was an absolute joke. I mean, how you can go to the VAR and how they can, you know, sustain that as a penalty kick. He takes a touch and he just dives, he just flops over. And Marshall, you know, he doesn't get near him. You can see it clearly at the game. As a striker, you're well within your rights, and people will argue that's cheating, but you get a touch and you think the keeper is going to catch me and I'll get a penalty. That's exactly what the boy Duke's done. He's in there, he's took a gamble, he's took a touch and flopped over.
And it's worked.
And it's worked. But it shouldn't have worked, because VAR should have had one look at that and said there's no contact there, he's dived. And I didn't hear Jim Goodwin coming out after the game and calling his own.
No, there was a wry smile in the after-match interview, I have to say, on this one.
But that's where you leave yourself as a manager. When you go down that road and you start calling players from other teams cheats, and your own player dives to get a penalty kick, you leave yourself with nowhere to go.
The whole thing about footballers is every footballer's a cheat. I'll tell you why, because every footballer will apply for will call for a shy when it's not their shy.
Yep.
So, but the whole thing about every footballer on the park wants to do everything it takes to win. Sometimes pushing the rules, sometimes going over the rules. That's why you need a referee. Because see, if they weren't doing that, you wouldn't need a referee. You would have boys say, "Oh no, Cyril, it's your throw in," or "No, the goalkeeper." I'm a Corinthian. The goalkeeper didn't trim me. I actually died, and it's terrible. You know, let's have a bye kick. That's why you've got the referee. You know.
I think it's. By the way, full marks to Aberdeen. Apart from that, I mean, as if to rub salt in the wounds, they made him take the penalty twice. You know, God, if you're a hippie up there, you'd be going bananas. But the boy Majowski is scoring goals for fun. He's a real star for them.
I interviewed Jim Goodwin ahead of what would have been, it was in the kind of Celtic v Real Madrid, so it was a while ago. It was before what would have been Rangers' trip to Pittodrie that was cancelled because of the death of the Queen. And he was talking about the players in the time, and I was saying to him, I said, Majowski looks decent, more than decent. And he said, yep. He said, we've already had offers for him. There's people looking at him in England. We've had offers for England. The big thing maybe that, you know, is going to be to hang on to him. And you can see why, because he does look quality. What do you think of him, Tam?
I think he's a terrific player. I think that him and Duke, I think it was a real area for Aberdeen. They didn't have last season under Stephen Glass. I think they've upgraded the forward areas. Clarkson in the middle of the park, and loan from Liverpool, excellent. They've got pace in their team now. You've seen that at times when Hibs are pushing players forward to get back into the game, lightning counter attacks.
Tam, what about the back heel?
It's a great finish. You know, it's great awareness. You know, takes it around the goalkeeper and just flicks it back heel. A lot of players would have done the Titanic trying to get right in, but he just went back heel. And if Aberdeen can sort their away form out, I think they'll be in the mix for third, because at home they've been absolutely superb. So I'm not taking anything away from Aberdeen. They deserve to win the game, and you don't want to be sour grapes with the penalty kick. But that's a big turning point in the game, the penalty kick. But I think that Aberdeen look very, very strong this year.
Yeah, well, let's get the thoughts of the Hibs manager Lee Johnson, because Adam Binney, our reporter, was out there in Tranent today to get his thoughts ahead of a home game against Ross County.
Thanks, Peter. I'm outside of the Hibernian Training Centre for this afternoon's press conferences in advance of Hibs' match against Ross County at Easter Road in the Scottish Premiership. Tomorrow we had the opportunity to speak to Hibs manager Lee Johnson, who provided a very important injury update, as well as letting us know his thoughts on the Australians' forwards' chances of representing his country at the World Cup this month.
Yeah, not fit for the game, and like I say, just really now as the focus on the World Cup for Australia. Still with us, you know, and still like providing his sort of leadership qualities and behind the scenes, his voice in the meetings and stuff like that. But in terms of on the pitch stuff, we won't be seeing him in the next two. What we have had is confirmation that he's within the group in terms of to see whether he's fit enough to make the final squad. So I think he'd be okay. I do. I mean, I'm hopeful, obviously, for him as well. He's been through the loading phase, which he's come out of quite well, but what he hasn't done is any sort of eccentric movements yet out on the grass.
We also spoke to Hibs defender Rocky Bashiri, who admitted that the World Cup break could actually be disruptive with such a long period of time off.
It's hard because it's a long break, you know. You can take it as a rest and as a refreshing, working on new things, but keeps you out of your flow as well. So, but we've got good friendly games. So good opportunities. We play against strong sides to get better and to work on what we've been doing.
Well, Peter, I'd love to know what you think then. Can Martin Boyle make it back in time for the World Cup? He'll certainly hope so, and I'm sure the Hibs fans will be hoping to see their star man represent the club on the international stage. And what about Rocky Bashiri's comments as well? Can it be a disruption, or is it a much needed rest for the rest of Scottish football? Fill us in.
Yeah, great points from your man there, Adam. He's brilliant, isn't he? Just love him. I love him, honestly. And by the way, you couldn't mark his confidence with a blowtorch. Honestly, he's brilliant. He's a great acquisition for our 5-a-side team, and although I'm waiting to see if he's a good acquisition for our 11-a-side team, Tam. Just on the points here, I'm warming to Rocky Bashiri, but hey, we're moving into the realms of madness now. It's a player who they're talking about ready for the World Cup, and he's a player there paid by Hibs. I mean, it's a strange one, isn't it?
Yeah, I just think he's maybe 2 or 3 weeks away from being fit, and I think that for Martin Boyle, it would mean everything for him to go to a World Cup. It's a once in a lifetime, you know. And I don't want to upset Hibs fans here, but I think the priority for him now will be try to get in that Australian squad and be fit for that, because you know he's worked ever so hard. You know, he's come up through the ranks, started with Dundee, Montrose. You know, looked as if he was kind of going to be a journeyman. A swap deal, I think, with the boy Alex Harris, which was turned out to be incredible business for Hibs. Goes to Hibs. Has been absolutely what a play he's been for Hibs over the years. They pushed the boat out to get him back, obviously, a few months ago. So I really hope. I know Martin well as well. He's a great character, and I'd love to see him at the World Cup testing himself against the very best. So
VAR's a really good thing. I think how it's implemented.
Yeah, sorry about that. But we're not only having glitches, we're just going mental with Robbie
Nielsen barging in.
Robbie Nielsen barging into the show. Robbie, just need to cap your jets, son. The last thing is we need is Robbie's hilarity right now, Tam. The other thing I was going to say to you is Bashiri. Warming to him, I think because sometimes it takes a manager to say, listen, this is what you're good at, this is what you're not good at, just do the simple things that I'm telling you.
Yeah, and it's getting used to the new style of manager, getting used to the style of the league, and well, I was having a slight smile, you know. I don't think you'd find Mr. Ruff or Mr. McManus complaining about having 5 weeks off over Christmas and New Year. Oh, Ruffy would be at the World Cup, wouldn't he? 3 World Cup Ruffies, he'd be there.
He's not here today. We wish him the best, by the way. He's not feeling well. Tam's obviously dipped something in his tea just to make sure he's not here. Yeah, absolutely. You like that bit there, don't you? Hearts 3, Motherwell 2, and it continues with the VAR. Give us your thoughts on VAR. What do you make of it all? Is it just a little bit of teething problems? Do we need to just cut it some slack? The referees in the VAR studios, and of course the referees on the pitch, do we need to get that balance before we eventually get the percentage of decisions right? And what about the scores over the weekend? Giovanni van Bronckhorst under pressure, although not at this moment as far as the Rangers board are concerned. We're led to believe that they're not discussing his future at the moment. Would a draw or a defeat to Hearts really accelerate the calls for Giovanni van Bronckhorst to go? Do you think he should stay? And what about Celtic? Can you see them drop 3 games in this title race? Can you see them lose 3 games in this title race and suddenly
Rangers need to win every one?
Rangers have to win every game. Give us your thoughts on that. What do you think of Ange Postecoglou's team at the moment? The fact that some of the stars might be going and other players will be coming in. They're 7 points clear. Is the weekend's results a clear indication that Celtic got the title in the bag, even though it's only November? Give us your thoughts on it. It's early days for us here in the studio, but it's always good to get your thoughts on it as well. Hearts 3, Motherwell 2. Robbie Nielsen, as you're just about to hear, certainly doesn't think that anybody who's actually operating the VAR knows about the game.
VAR's a really good thing. I think how it's implemented is a problem. You know, and the people that are watching it, that's the problem. When you look at the penalties incident with Craig Gordon, when you look at the real details of it, when the player plays the ball, yes, him and Craig come together, but the spin of the ball changes when Craig Gordon gets close to it. So Craig Gordon gets a touch on the ball, hence he makes a save. But people watching VAR don't understand that, they don't recognise that. You know, you have to look at the ball. You don't just look at the goalkeeper and the player. You look at how the ball moves, and the ball spins. And even if it's the slightest touch, he's still made contact with the ball and he's made the save. You know, and that's the problem we have, is that, you know, it's not the VAR, it's how the VAR's been implemented that's causing us a problem.
Yeah, because there is human frailty in this one. There's still interpretation of the decision. It doesn't matter. Technology can be used to give you the angles, Tam, but it's still a human being that's making the calls. Should he have been sent off? George Grant, should that be reduced to a yellow?
I thought he should have got sent off. I'm only seen a slight touch. I didn't really see that, to be honest. I thought it was a pure tackle. But I totally agree with the implementation of it. I mean, you've got to get it right. You know, the people in that VAR studio have got to get it right. You know, they're sitting, they've got all the technology right in front of them, the rule book, they know what's going on. They cannot afford to get big decisions wrong, because that's the whole reason why we brought it in. Mm-hmm. You know, to try and get the big decisions right, and we're not getting them right. You know, and the biggest one for me was obviously the Hibs penalty, but, you know, you could argue about the sending off as well. I thought it was a pure tackle and it was, you know, borderline red, but you've got to get these decisions right, Peter, and the managers are going to become very, very frustrated if it's going to VAR and still not getting it right. Yeah,
well, we've got to cut them some slack, and we've got to allow them some time to try and get it working as efficiently as possible with the minimum amount of mistakes. But I have to say, they've got until January the 2nd.
No, goodness gracious, DEFCON 3 as it's known. I think if VAR had to start all over again, I think maybe further down the line this might just happen. It'll be reduced. I'm not just talking about Scotland, because there's real difficulties with it elsewhere. They've got better referees elsewhere, so there's fewer bad results, but there's still people not happy. I think if VAR's got to really succeed as a thing, that it can only be matters of fact, like offside, ball crossing the line. It can't be interpreted, not even red cards, not handballs, nothing. Nothing that is subjective, nothing that the referee can decide on the park. Everything is just going to be ball over the line, offsides, and nobody can argue.
So no phased decisions on a passage of play?
No, none at all, because the passage of play stuff has got ludicrous now, because now we're deciding what is a passage of play.
Yeah.
Now, anybody, like, here's the one, the classic one what we've got in football now, is that at Livingston, where Kyogo, as he always does, playing again to, you know, very cleverly, goes beyond the line, right? The defender has to clear it. If the defender leaves it, Kyogo's offside, and the defender clears it, Celtic score, right? So they've actually, you know, they've created an advantage for a guy in an offside position, because the defenders thought he's had to clear it when he really didn't. I mean, it gets into all those little nuances.
I can hear the referee saying, listen, there are various passages of play, and the first phase, when it's over, they go, that phase is over, and they move on again. This is what they're constantly talking to the referee and saying, that phase is over, we move on.
The one for me, Peter, was maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, was the Haaland goal against Anfield?
No.
Where it was that Haaland foul in the middle of the park. It's a foul.
Yeah.
But then I think there was maybe 3 or 4 passes. Ball went wide. It was a shot. Keeper parried it, and they tapped it in.
Yeah.
And then they go all the way back to there.
Yeah.
It was maybe 10 to 12 seconds, you know.
I know, it was right. I mean, it was literally 35 yards away from goal, the first initial one, and Haaland scores inside the 6-yard box. Yep. So it is that, because then it becomes subjective again. What is a passage of play?
Yeah.
Then, I mean, to be ludicrous, do you go back to, wait a wee minute, we'll go back further than that. That wasn't a Man City shy in the first place.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's got a lot of tweaking to go. Elsewhere, it was Kilmarnock 2, Livingston 3, David Martindale. Isn't it amazing, though? I mean, honestly, some people have thrown his name into the hat to be considered for Rangers, but, you know, I don't think he's a serious contender, and I find that sad to say that, because, you know, if they were looking for a manager who has utterly amazed everyone. He's there, but I just don't see him being even quoted in the top 10.
No, I think that he would have to go somewhere else and do well, and then maybe go to Rangers. But
yeah,
what a job he does at Livingston. I mean, you look at that club, you know, that their budget will be bottom 2 or 3. You know, they work hard. You've got a wee bit of quality about them as well. Bruce Anderson was terrific. You know, his goal was a great finish, and even for the winning goal, he doesn't give up out wide, you know, and plays a little back pass, and then it was a terrible own goal for the centre half. So, but I think that he's doing a terrific job there. I really like him as well. He's honest, and I think if I was a player, I'd like to play for him, because what you see is what you get. You know, and I think he would tell you to your face what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. And I think that's what you want as a player. You want that honesty, and I think he's got that in abundance.
Yeah, David Martindale obviously has aspirations to keep Livingston heading up the table as much as possible and finishing inside the top 6. And with that in mind, he reckons they have to show the mettle that they showed against Kilmarnock.
That's the first time we've come back this season when we've been a goal behind, or we've been behind in a game. Which for me, if you want to finish in the top 6, you want to do well in the Scottish Premier League, you need that in your locker, and you need to find ways to win games of football. And huge credit to the players tonight, because I think they've done that.
Yeah, great credit to Livingston. And the flip side of that, Derek McInnes at that bottom end still can't get away from the bottom end in that relegation battle, and I think he's looking at his team and a fair assessment. They still at times look as if they're a championship side struggling to hold their own.
I think you still see at times that, you know, at times we look like a team that's just been promoted. But there's been more times this season where we actually look as if we belong in the Premier League, and that's, I'm just disappointed we didn't show that side of ourselves tonight. We will though, we will be alright, we'll be fine. I've no doubts we'll respond. A lot of boys they're certainly putting lots in, but you know, we've got to realise that it's a 90-minute game, needs full concentration at this level.
Yeah, well, if Kilmarnock are worrying about what it's like to try and stay away from the relegation, Ross County, they are a team who know how to battle away from relegation. They come off the bottom of the table with a 3-2 win at St Mirren, and suddenly Big Malky starting to work the magic as they get towards the break, and then of course Roy will give them
as they say in the wire, Roy can re-up and get some more money in there. That was huge though, especially when they were down. You know, if you say to yourself, how did they come back from losing against St Mirren at home, particularly when, you know, St Mirren are doing very well, but you would have thought they would be a bottom 6 rival at one point, and I think almost certainly will prove to be. So that would have been a terrible result for them. That's a good result. Gives them a bit of leeway. Gives them. If they can get something in the next 2 games, take a breath during the World Cup, you know, and I know what the kind of scouting that goes on at Ross County. They'll have targets already in mind. They've no problem with the competence of their manager as a coach. So not in the worst position that they could have been.
Yeah, look at that table now, Tam, and you can see at the bottom end of the Scottish Premiership that it is tight there with those 3 clubs. It's Kilmarnock, it's Ross County, it's Dundee United, of course, just with a little bit of a cushion. You've got Motherwell and Livingston. I think some Rangers fans would say, well, hang on a minute, why are you even throwing David Martindale's name into the hat? He's 8th in the Scottish Premiership. Get a grip of yourself. That may be the case. I think that Rangers are looking for someone, if they sack Giovanni van Bronckhorst, who's got a pedigree, who's maybe a younger manager.
It's just to winning trophies. You know, it's.
Well, is that? I think it's going to be a younger manager who's shown great potential. I don't see it being an older man that they're going to have to pay money for or any kind of major compensation.
No, I don't think that either. But just going back to that league table, sorry, I think when you look at Dundee United at the bottom there, and you look at the 2 clubs above them, Kilmarnock and Ross County, 2 managers, Malky Mackay, Derek McInnes.
Yeah.
2, you know, hardened managers, you know, proven managers in that league. Liam Falk's a young manager there, you know, up at Dundee United. So that's probably the reason why I feel the worst for them. I don't think that Dundee United have got the money to get out and strengthen in January as well. They're hemorrhaging money up there and paying big wages.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see who do you think is going to get relegated. It's great to talk about it in November. Who do you think is going to win the league, and who do you think is going to still be in a job? So many great questions that we're asking on a regular basis here. It can only be Scottish football. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Had a few technical issues today. My apologies to everyone. Every now and then, when the internet plays up, we all suffer the consequences. So my apologies to all and sundry who watch the programme. If you download the app, you can watch it at your leisure, and over and above that, listen to the podcast as well. No Ruffy today, not feeling too great, but we hope he gets back to full fitness. Probably the reason why he's not feeling too great is Thistle are on 5 consecutive defeats, conceded 18 goals, only scored 5, and they're now out of the top 4, and the pressure's mounting on them, but we'll get to that in a minute. What about the predictor table, Hugh? It's getting mightily close. It's just fantastic. Ruffy's on 122, I'm on 113, 3 points ahead of Alison McConnell on 110. Tam McManus is on 104. And then it's Tam Cowan on 101. And Hugh, you're on 90. And you are, I think, if you had a great 21 pointer one week, you'd be right in there. If you're not out of this, Hugh, if you really battle away.
No, I think I'm out of it. And I'm quite confident that I'll be picking up the tab.
You think so?
Aye. I'm actually quite looking forward to it now. You go through the 7 stages of feeling, grief, despair, despair. I've come to acceptance.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, you might have come to acceptance, but we want to know if the bar is the same or better than Cowan's.
I'll just do a Cowan. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do what he did. Yeah. Everybody seemed. I wasn't invited, obviously, but everybody seemed to like it. So.
Yeah, that's the type of commitment.
You want you to be last then. You don't want me to be last.
Absolutely.
Obviously, with one caveat, I wouldn't be taking anybody of the pundits. It's just me and the staff.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair enough. I can understand that. Listen, just in the other topics, I've got to get right through as many as possible. Thistle manager under pressure.
He looked at he certainly looked when he was given the interview post-match Dundee, which was a terrible result because they were 2-0 up and lost. I think what saves them completely is that league. That league is...
They're still only 3 or 4 points. 5 points off the top.
Yeah, still in with a chance. Okay, we'll get Ruffy's thoughts on it tomorrow if he's feeling a little bit better. If Ian McCall was in charge of an English Premier League side with a run of 5 consecutive defeats, he'd be sacked because Ralph Husenhattel has gone. There's no room for sentiment or anything at all in that division. If you're not cutting it and there's a danger of you going down, you're bumped, and he's gone.
Yeah, I think that any club that drops into that relegation zone, the panic button gets pressed straight away because the money at stake is phenomenal. So I think he's a good manager. I think he's done really well there at Southampton. He's done well to keep them in the league. But I just think lately they look as if they're on the slide a little bit. You've got to give credit to Newcastle. I think Newcastle are absolutely outstanding. They are flying under Eddie Howe, but I think he'll pick up another job, hasn't he?
Yeah, Newcastle in third. Of course, it's Man City then. All the talk now, could Arsenal win the league? Mikel Arteta's having none of it.
Do something. Just look at the last 6 years what Manchester City's done. With the best man in the world, with the best team in the world, they've shown it consistently in every single competition. And we have to be very, very respectful of that. We are getting much better as a team. We are competing much better. We are getting really good results right now. But this is a long shot.
Can Arsenal win the league here? No. Okay, same here, I think.
But I think he'll be the next manager of Man City.
Well, there you are. That's looking a little further ahead. But the big man is the difference, I think. The number 9 is the man that I think could give them the title and Champions League glory.
It depends if they've got one eye. I think Man City and Pep would rather win the Champions League.
Absolutely, 100%.
I agree with you, but I think they're so far ahead of anything else in England. See, when you were thinking about Liverpool going at full pelt with the top players and winning Champions Leagues and winning World Club Championships, could only prize one title away from Man City.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Nobody else is going to do it.
And interestingly enough, they're pulling up for sale and they're looking for
Fenway
are looking for $5 billion.
Yeah, smart people. Smart. I've been not around. I went to Boston once with ESPN and interviewed and saw around the Fenway thing, and they're really slick, clever people. They know sport. Fenway obviously comes from the interest in the Boston Red Sox. And they're going to make an awful lot of money out of this. An awful lot of money. And this is the time to cash in.
Yeah. Why is it the time to cash in?
Because I think there'll be an allure for people coming. The European Super League is not going away, and that top clubs are undervalued. If a European Super League comes in, the whole landscape changes again.
Liverpool were part of that breakaway group, Hugh, and do you think maybe the Americans, now they're not getting their own way, thought that's enough?
I think they got a bloody nose with that, Peter, because the whole thing about the European Super League was the optics of it, the public relations of it was poor. They didn't explain it well, and some people say, well, it's not explicable. They could have made it an awful lot easier. But it'll come, and when it does come, it'll add real value to the top clubs. As well, Fenway, there's a great saying, I've never been an investor, there's a great saying, always leave somebody for the buyer, always leave some profit for the guy that buys after you. They have made billions out of this, and they've still got a portfolio of big sporting business. They're not going to be just to cut out their money. And I think they might get back into football, because I think they might identify other clubs that they could do something well at, because they're a good organisation full of really clever people.
Okay, the Champions League draw was made today, sadly, with no Scottish teams involved in it, but there's a few humdingers in there if you have a look at that draw to see exactly what happened. Leipzig against Man City, Bruges against Benfica, and look at that, Liverpool against Real Madrid, AC Milan, Tottenham, Eintracht Frankfurt, Napoli, Borussia Dortmund against Chelsea, Inter Milan, Porto, and Paris Saint-Germain against Bayern Munich. A few absolute belters there, but Liverpool against Real Madrid is an absolute cracker.
Repeat of last year's final.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be superb. And I must admit, I'd love to see Liverpool win it, but I certainly enjoyed watching Madrid last week. Hugh, they were superb.
I wouldn't mind 2 wins out of that. That's too good. It's probably at worst actually been a quarter final. We know why it wasn't. It wasn't for proper reasons. I wouldn't mind 2 wins. Now I watched Liverpool yesterday against Spurs, and I know it's not going to be a vintage season as yet, certainly domestically for them. They're just terrific to watch, They just give it everything. The interesting game for me would be the Club Brugge Benfica game, because the whole atmosphere in Scottish football is saying we can never compete, and we never compete with this level. That's 2 teams outside the top 5 leagues. One of them is going to get a quarter final.
Yeah, absolutely.
Were Bruges a top 4 team?
Yeah, they were a top 4 team, and over and above that, not only will they get a quarter final, they will be in a situation where they're going to get a big amount of cash.
Absolutely.
If they can get there. So it's it's all there for them. And again, as you said, pot 4 Tam. So it can be done. Sometimes you need the luck of the draw along the way, and I concede that to anybody who wants to put that message across. Thank you to so many of you I meant to put the quiz question out. I'll put it out now just to see if any of you guys knew the answer to this, because obviously Liverpool, Real Madrid. Which Spanish midfielder won the Champions League with Liverpool and Real Madrid? Do you know what the answer to that? Don't you tell them, Hugh, because you're all over it. Spanish midfielder.
Xabi Alonso. Xabi Alonso.
Yeah, well done, Tam. He's on for him. That's why he's here.
No, he's what he's done. Like all good footballers, that elite footballer, he's raised his game.
Yeah.
Big Ruffy's not here. He said, "This is my chance. We can bullet Ruffy now."
Yeah, absolutely. He's asked.
You've got a decision to make tonight.
Oh, he's asked the question.
My good impact sub.
He's asked the producer and the director if she can change the titles, but I'm sure it's only a matter of time. Europa League draw, just briefly. Barcelona, Man United, certainly the pick of them, isn't it?
Absolutely. That's another thing. Going back to European Super League, that's why they want a European Super League. That's a European Super League tie in the second division of European football.
Yeah,
and then another one as well, Ajax versus Union Berlin.
Yeah, well, I did mention to everybody the Union Bears could have been going over to see Union Berlin, but it just didn't materialise. But Barcelona manager is going to be superb. Just before we go, thank you to so many of you for tuning in, especially with the technical difficulties we've had. My apologies for that today. Hit the subscribe button if you can. But Tam, on this last little point, it's a football question for a player who's played at a really good level. I wonder what the Peter and Ruffy's show in Argentina is talking about at the moment, because Boca Juniors Racing Club it finished with 8 red cards. It was a humdinger.
8 red?
Eight red cards.
Can you still continue the game?
No, it was abandoned.
It was abandoned. I think
score at the time?
2-1. 2-1 to Racing
They'll
Club.
get the result.
Yeah, so
I was watching a game last night. It wasn't far off it. It was Betis Seville.
yeah.
3 red cards and I think 9 yellow.
Yeah, have you
That pales in insignificant.
have you had a
that
red
game.
card before in your career, Tam?
I've had yes. I had won a Dundee derby last minute when I went to close down Barry Robson. He was wasting time in the corner flag, and Barry's got big elbows, as we know, and he's just shielded the ball and he caught me in the snib, and I just wiped him out.
Yep.
Straight red. One against Rangers, where I put my hands on Mike McCurry and called him a cheat.
Yep.
Which got me a red card.
Yep.
And what else? I think I had a couple. I think I was only 2 I can remember.
Yeah, okay. Not bad shout, isn't it? A couple of feisty ones from Tam. Didn't see that side in him. Only seen the happy-go-lucky guy who liked to party, but maybe there's a wee dark side to him.
though,
Yes, absolutely. We're going to talk tomorrow in the company of Alison McConnell, and on the couch, if Ruffy's back, then he'll be with me on the football show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. All you have to do is hit the subscribe button, download the app. You'll get all the breaking news stories across the UK, Europe, and of course globally as well. We've covered them all, and you can watch the football show at your leisure as well. It's of course absolutely free to watch us, and we're delighted that you're joining in great numbers and watching it on a regular basis. It's uncensored football news and banter. It's the best way to sum it up. Hopefully you'll be a part of it tomorrow at 4 o'clock with no technical glitches. From everyone here, thanks for watching.